welcome to another edition of the Cover 2 podcast. I am Nick Nenad.
I'm Jared Smith.
And of course, it's Super Bowl week. Probably one of our favorite weeks of all.
No, not probably. The favorite.
It has to be.
The only thing that would make it better is if our two teams were in the Super Bowl.
Good point. It's good point, which is impossible.
Right, because they're both in the NFC.
You're right.
It's okay.
I guess the best possible week maybe would be NFC Championship week 2 weeks ago. But nonetheless, we don't need to go into that stupid stuff. It's Super Bowl week. Super Bowl's in Miami this year. Super Bowl 54. You guys all know what's going on. You're all planning your parties. You're planning your get-togethers to watch this amazing game, whether you like football or not. And to be honest, we'd be pretty surprised if you're watching our podcast and you didn't like and care about the Super Bowl. But if you are watching, we welcome you to listen. And maybe
appreciate you anyway.
Yeah, maybe our analysis of the game will help you kind of get into the game because we will do our best. The way this podcast is going to go today, it's probably going to be a little shorter than usual, just because we're pretty much going to dive into mostly Super Bowl topics. We are going to talk about a little bit of quarterback news, old quarterback news in Philip Rivers and Tom Brady.
Older quarterbacks.
Yes. We are going to talk about them because Philip Rivers will not be a part of the Chargers next year, and Tom Brady posted a really weird Twitter message earlier today, Thursday, that we want to just maybe give away a prediction of what we think that might mean, and then of course we'll make our predictions at the end of the podcast. But we do want to get started with just kind of going over the overall game, looking at what the strengths and weaknesses of each team are, and just kind of giving you a full preview here. So, Jared, let's start with this. What are you most excited about this game?
No doubt for me, it's the two strengths for both teams. You've got the ferocious 49ers defense that throughout the season, and we've seen even more so throughout the playoffs, their front four is dominant, they're nasty, they sack quarterbacks, they get pressure in your face, even if they don't sack you, they make offenses look completely foolish. They did that to the Minnesota Vikings. They have Joey Bosa, that kind of starts it all, right?
Murderous row of defensive linemen.
Pretty much, right? The NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year, no doubt. You've got Quan Alexander, your leading linebacker, and then in the secondary, you have Richard Sherman, who obviously everyone knows as a Seattle Seahawk, and is now playing for the 49ers. So at every level of the 49ers defense, you have, in a sense, an elite superstar, right?
Yeah.
And you can't say that about many teams. So there's not a lot of holes or weaknesses on this 49ers defense. Guess what? The same thing can be said for the Kansas City Chiefs and their offense, which is the strength of that team, no doubt. Patrick Mahomes, basically the Michael Jordan of the NFL right now, more than likely will be the first player in NFL history to reach a $200 million contract, and I can say that pretty confidently.
Absolutely.
Right? You've got Tyreek Hill, the cheetah, one of, if not the fastest receivers in the NFL. You have Travis Kelce, arguably the best tight end in the NFL, and if I'm not mistaken, 4 other wide receivers and or running backs on the Kansas City Chiefs team run a 4.3 40 or faster.
The team is crazy.
You can't guard all of these guys. And then you have Patrick Mahomes who can throw the ball 80 yards with his eyes closed. It's just ridiculous. The play calling of Andy Reid and that offensive staff, how they put their players in positions to make plays, is truly remarkable, and it's great to see. So I'm really looking forward to the Kansas City Chiefs offense going up against the juggernaut defense of the 49ers and seeing which one is going to fall.
Well, we saw a little bit of this kind of matchup in the AFC Championship game between the Chiefs and the Titans. Not so much Packers and 49ers. There wasn't really a matchup there because of the blowout. You weren't really able to fully see what was going to go on in that game. But I think Titans-Chiefs is the game I'm going to look at. Maybe you should go back and look at some of the highlights at how I think this game will go. And I think it's because when you look at what the 49ers have done all season and what they specifically did against the Packers, they rushed the ball. They rushed the ball to an amazing strength in that game. They looked unbelievable. And I think when you look at it that way, you see that, hey, if this team rushes really well, like the Titans did, at least in the first half against the Titans, maybe there's a chance that this game, the two strengths of the team, you see one take over and the other not. Meaning that you could see the 49ers defense kind of take over this game. But, like you mentioned with the offense, I think it's the best offense in the NFL. And if that offense does what they're supposed to do and what they should do, I think you're looking at a long night for the 49ers, and it could end up being the second half of that Titans-Chiefs game where the Chiefs kind of blew them out. So it's going to be really interesting. I think the 49ers are a better team than the Tennessee Titans. I don't think a lot of people will argue with me about that. But, this is a game of, two different, almost polar opposite types of teams.
No doubt.
Yeah, so it could go any way.
Listen.
And that's what's kind of hard about when I've been looking at this. It's hard for me to come up with a definitive prediction. I know who I know is going to win the game. I'm not going to reveal that until later in the game. But there are certain ways that this game could go to change my mind completely about it. So I'm not giving anything away.
All right. Let's jump into this.
Yeah.
Give me an intriguing player. Doesn't matter the team. Doesn't matter which side of the ball. Give me a player that you were looking forward to the most. All right. You can say the easy answer of Patrick Mahomes or Jimmy Garoppolo, but give me a player maybe that some of these viewers don't necessarily know about.
I'm intrigued to watch Jimmy Garoppolo play quarterback.
No,
that would be one.
Not when he threw 8 passes in the NFC Championship. No,
6 completions. By the way. No, I wouldn't consider him intriguing.
Okay.
Who I am intrigued to see in this game is Richard Sherman, who is the top corner for the San Francisco 49ers. We were talking a little bit about him before the podcast started. I want to see if Richard Sherman can somehow stop the receiving core for Kansas City. Now, I know one guy can't stop multiple players, but if Richard Sherman plays like he has the whole season and plays like the type of corner that he's been his whole career when healthy, that's the most intriguing thing in this game. And I think that when I was talking about things that could change this game, Richard Sherman and the defense, and specifically DBs, that's a big part of this game because I think the weakness besides Richard Sherman for the 49ers is the defensive backs. But Richard Sherman is so good that all the rest of the defensive backs don't have to do as much because he covers so much land on the one side that he plays. So that's my most intriguing player, even though it's a guy that won't really have that much impact on the game. He could, secretly undercover, he could secretly have a big game and really give the 49ers a good chance to win. Who is your intriguing player to watch for this game?
I asked you that question, and you kind of took my player. Now, it's not a surprise. We all know.
I have another guy I can say.
Who's been in the spotlight.
If you want to extend on Jay, I do have an offensive player.
No, it's okay. And my guy is actually going to be Sammy Watkins. And people are going to say, Sammy Watkins, sounds really familiar, right? Former first-round pick of the Buffalo Bills. Didn't necessarily pan out. I wouldn't say he was a bust there, but he wasn't the boom player that the Buffalo Bills thought he would be. Traded to Kansas City, somewhat of a rejuvenated, career with Kansas City. Obviously, when you have Patrick Mahomes throwing you the ball, he's going to make most people look very good. And the fact that the Chiefs, like I mentioned in the beginning, have Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and a plethora of other offensive weapons, I think that has freed up Sammy Watkins to not have to necessarily take on the load of being the number one guy or the number one go-to receiver all the time. And so I'm interested to watch him because I think if you're the 49ers, you have to stop Travis Kelce, you have to stop Tyreek Hill, right? It's like you mentioned, you can't stop everyone on the Kansas City Chiefs offense. You basically have to pick and choose who you're going to double team and who you're going to put your best defenders on. So if I'm Sammy Watkins, I'm kind of licking my chops because I'm saying, hey, I know that a lot of the coverage is going to go to Travis Kelce and to Tyreek Hill. I'm going to get the second or the third corner on me, right? So I have to win my matchups. And so if Sammy Watkins has a bad game, then I think Kansas City probably loses, right? Now, Patrick Mahomes is going to find his go-to targets, but if I'm Patrick Mahomes, I'm going to Sammy Watkins before the game, and I'm saying, hey, man, they're going to put the number 2 corner, number 3 corner on you. You got to win those one-on-one matchups. You're better than the 3rd and 4th corner on the 49ers, right? So I look for Sammy Watkins to have a big game, 7-8 catches, close to, if not 100 yards, and a touchdown. And I think he could actually be the X factor in this game when you're just looking at X's and O's.
Yeah, that's a good one. I disagree with you a little bit that I think if Sammy Watkins has a bad game, they lose the Super Bowl, because I think they have enough weapons on offense where one guy can be stopped and they can still win the game.
Here's what I mean by that, and I...
Yeah, please expand on it, because I don't agree with that.
Okay, but here's the thing. If you're the 49ers, are you, and you're scheming up your defense and how you're going to defend Kansas City, right? If you're sitting here and you lose either way, would you rather lose with Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill killing you, each going for 100 yards, doing what they normally do, Travis Kelce getting 8 to 10 catches, and Tyreek Hill getting behind the defense for 2, 70-yard touchdown bombs like they always do? Or would you say, hey, you know what? We held the best players on Kansas City in check, and we made their second, third, and fourth receivers beat us, right? It doesn't matter the sport. When you're scheming against great players and other great talent, you have to take away their best players, and you have to live with the fact that, hey, you know what? If this team beats us with their third and fourth best players, you have to live with that. Now, I'm not saying that the 49ers are going to live with that or that's what they're expecting to do, but you can't let Tyreek Hill beat you. You can't let Travis Kelce beat you. So that's what I'm saying. For Sammy Watkins, I think he's going to get a lot of opportunities thrown from Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball his way. And I think it's going to be up to him to not only catch the ball, but get yards after the catch and really make plays for this offense.
I'll give the other offensive player because I think you'll agree with me on this. And since you said Sammy Watkins, I'm going to say this guy. I think Emmanuel Sanders on the 49ers side has to have a big game as well.
Think about him, man. Yeah. Getting traded from Denver.
He hasn't. The only week off he got was the week off in the playoffs. He didn't even have a bye in the season. So he's played the most games out of any team this playoffs so far.
Wow.
Which is kind of crazy to think about. Yeah.
Hey, but he's in the Super Bowl.
He's in the Super Bowl, so it doesn't matter.
That all year long.
Yeah, and it doesn't really. One extra game doesn't really matter, and he's not banged up. But I haven't seen, and especially with last game the way it went, Emmanuel Sanders really hasn't had a good game for a long time. I don't think he was the top guy in the. Oh, wait, that doesn't make sense. No, I'm thinking of the Chiefs. Never mind. But that was totally wrong what I was just about to say. So might have to cut that.
It's okay. You caught it though. You caught it.
Yeah, I caught it. But no, I don't think Emmanuel Sanders has had the biggest kind of impact on the 49ers team in a while.
That you thought they would.
Yeah,
you thought he would
it's just it's been Deebo Samuel, or it's been Mostert, or it's been Garoppolo, or it's been the defense overall. It hasn't really been Sanders that's took over a game much for the 49ers this year since getting traded. So I think when you make a big trade during the season, you always want those guys to perform in any sport. Hockey, basketball, baseball, football.
Of course. Yeah. Of course. But here's the thing. Emmanuel Sanders, throughout his entire career, has never been a, true number one receiver. Hey, when we need a catch, we're going to go to him necessarily. He can play on the outside. He's been a slot guy. I think what he is, and for this 49ers offense, he's a very reliable receiver. He brings veteran experience, right? And before the 49ers traded for him, you looked on their roster, and you're right, they had Deebo Samuel. He's a rookie. At the time, you didn't know what you had in him. You had Dante Pettis, who's a second-round receiver out of Washington, who's more of a special teams guy. And, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to disrespect any of the other 49ers receivers, but I can't really sit here and name anyone else, right? So I think they went out and got Emmanuel Sanders to say, hey, we want him as not an insurance policy, but just another guy that is, a 3rd and 6. He can convert plays, right? He's not going to be a deep guy or anything like that, but he's a guy that Jimmy Garoppolo can trust. And so you don't expect him to go off for 8 or 10 catches every single game for over 100 yards. But when Jimmy G needs a play and George Kittle is double teamed, who would you rather throw to? Dante Pettis and Deebo Samuel, or Emmanuel Sanders, who's a veteran?
And Deebo Samuel has come up with some big plays. Deebo Samuel's kind of took over the role as the number one receiver, although that's George Kittle. I think we both agree with that. Number one receiver on the 49ers is George Kittle. But Deebo Samuel has taken over that role as kind of the go-to guy a lot. I always go back to my Cardinals just because that's the team I follow the most. Emmanuel Sanders kind of needs to play that Larry Fitzgerald role. He's not going to go deep. He's not going to catch some long balls. But when you need a big catch, you need that guy to make the play. The veteran that's been in the Super Bowl, a couple of years ago with the Broncos. Right. It was one of the reasons they won. So, Peyton Manning can trust Emmanuel Sanders, and I think Jimmy Garoppolo can too. So it's just a matter of him getting involved in the game. And I just think when you look at the 49ers offense, you can think that Mostert's going to run for 200 yards. That's not going to happen. Okay, we both agree that
sure about
that's
that?
not going to happen. Oh, we'll get into the stats in a second.
Okay.
But I don't think that happens again. And I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo will win the 49ers a game. I think it's going to be like a guy like Emmanuel Sanders that makes a big catch in the end zone. a guy like George Kittle who's going to make those big plays, those big 30-yard catches in the biggest moments. So, and a guy like Richard Sherman on defense that will stop, maybe get an interception, maybe break up a pass. For one of those guys.
Here's a question for you: what is more likely to happen? Patrick Mahomes throwing for 400 yards against the 49ers defense, or the 49ers offense running for 200 yards or more against Kansas City's defense? Because if either one of those happen, I think the team that is able to have success like that is going to win.
I think it's more possible that the Chiefs get 400. You say 400 yards?
Or 400 yards passing, like Patrick Mahomes.
400 passing
throw for 400 passing.
I think that's more plausible. Just because I don't think the Chiefs defense, although they're in the bottom half of the NFL in rush defense, I just don't think after what happened to the Packers and 2 weeks of watching film, they're going to let that happen.
See, that's the kicker.
That's the one thing that they're not going to let happen.
You've had 2 weeks to prepare, right? So this isn't like just a regular season game where you only get a week. Guys are kind of banked. You've had 2 full weeks, right? 1 week at home, and then this entire week up and since Monday, both teams have been in Miami. So you've had that extra time to look at film, practice, get yourself healthy, all of that. And I think you come up with different schemes on both sides of the ball. Obviously we saw a couple years ago when the Eagles did the Philly special, right? You come up with certain things that maybe a team hasn't seen on film in the regular season that you try to trick them or surprise them with. But at the end of the day, if the Chiefs give up over 200 yards to the 49ers rushing,
they're losing the game. No, 100%. I actually don't think that the Chiefs throwing for 400 yards means they absolutely win the game. But I think that, more than likely, probably, at that point. But 49ers run for 200 yards. You saw how devastating that was for the Packers.
And if the 49ers run for 200 yards, a couple things are going to happen. Number one, they're going to control the clock.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Which means Patrick Mahomes and that lethal offense will be on the bench, not affecting the game at all, right? And then the 49ers will be able to control the clock, and then their defense will be able to stay fresh. Yeah. I think that's a huge thing going up against an explosive offense with Kansas City, is the fact that you need your defense to stay fresh. You need to get 3 and outs. If the Chiefs can get extended drives, convert on third down, have a 6-7 minute drive, that is going to wear down the 49ers defense. I don't care how great and the all Pro Bowl defenders that they have on that team. It doesn't matter. If you're on the field for 6 to 7 minutes at a time, you're going to get winded, and it's eventually in the fourth quarter, you're going to wind down. Yeah. Right? So keep your defense off the field and keep the opponent's offense off the field.
So I think we should do this, and then I'm gonna, unless you have another point to make, I'm gonna go with the stats.
Let's do it.
And the direct stats. Okay, so
give me some facts.
We're gonna talk about our one thing that each defense needs to do to win this game. Okay. My number one thing that the 49ers need to do, the 49ers defense needs to do, is limit the amount of times that Patrick Mahomes, you need to limit the amount of times Patrick Mahomes has a ton of time in the pocket to pass. He needs to be pressured.
So he, more than 2 seconds.
I think there needs to be a lot of blitzing and stuff like that. There needs to be a lot of blitzing from the 49ers defense.
Okay.
Put pressure on him.
I'm glad you said that.
I get that he'll be able to get out of some. The great quarterbacks to the Russell Wilsons, the Aaron Rodgers, unless, what happened last week. I'm forgetting a lot of the quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson. They'll make the plays, right? But if you do it every single time, ask Deshaun Watson. At some point, your game gets beaten up and you get tired, and if every single play ends up being a scramble, things are going to go wrong, right? So that's my biggest thing. You said you kind of agreed with that, or do you have something else?
No, I actually don't. I disagree. And I feel the best strategy for the 49ers, they're going to blitz in certain situations. Yeah. Their defensive coordinator he likes to take chances. But I actually go back to the 2 Super Bowls that the New York Giants won, and I can't believe that I'm bringing the Giants up right now in this podcast. But they beat the Patriots and the Giants' only 2 Super Bowls of this decade and last decade because they were able to affect Tom Brady with only rushing 4 and having 7 defenders in the secondary covering players, right? When you don't have to blitz, when you can affect the quarterback with just your front 4 and you can put 7 guys in coverage, that is like a quarterback's worst nightmare. And so I think for the 49ers, I look at their defensive line that we've mentioned is nasty. You've got Nick Bosa, the NFL Defensive Player of the Year, DeForest Buckner, a former first-round pick, Eric Armstead, a former first-round pick, Solomon Thomas, a former first-round pick, and Sheldon Day, another former first-round pick. Like, there's literally first-round picks and talent all over
the
this line.
linebackers.
And then the linebackers.
Quan Alexander, D4.
Right, but what I'm
It's
saying
ridiculous.
is just with the defensive line for the 49ers, I feel that they have to affect Patrick Mahomes with just their rush. Because if they can let Richard Sherman, Quan Alexander, and 5 other defenders cover, I think that would be the key to success. And just like the Giants did with Tom Brady, they rushed 4, they put 7 in coverage, and they were able to affect Brady. Brady wasn't able to, number 1, have time in the pocket to see what was going on, and number 2, there was just great coverage on the back end. So you're going to blitz at certain points, but I actually disagree. If the 49ers start bringing the house every other play, I think Patrick Mahomes will eventually catch on to that. And when you blitz like that, if you blitz 5 or more players, more than likely you're playing man-to-man defense. If you let Tyreek Hill one-on-one, you know that they're going to take a deep shot, and I almost guarantee that 1 out of 5, they're going to connect.
Now, I know that the 49ers, I mentioned they don't have the best DBs besides Richard Sherman. I mean, they have solid DBs.
They're good. Like, they're good.
I mean, Cardinals DBs are terrible.
But they're not, Pro Bowlers or all
Well,
pros.
they're not Pro Bowlers, but here's the reason I say this is because I actually trust these DBs a little bit more than I thought.
I don't.
Once I saw a stat that I just looked up.
Okay.
Do you know who has the number 1 passing defense in the NFL this season? The
Who, Nick?
San Francisco 49ers.
I don't care.
You wouldn't expect
I don't
it.
care.
But so I believe that if you blitz, I think their defensive scheme is good enough to stop Patrick. Now, by the way, this is the biggest thing. I don't think this is going to happen. I don't want to give away my prediction, but I don't think the 49ers are going to be able to just stop Patrick Mahomes. I think there's going to be at least 20 points scored by the Chiefs in this game. At least. I just think this offense, there will be one big play at least. And I just think this offense is too good to just be limited like the Packers did. It's just not, there's no way it's going to happen. I think this is the best offense in the NFL in a couple of years. Maybe since the Panthers offense with Cam Newton, the one year they
2015 when they played the Broncos.
ridiculous, scoring 40 points a game.
And then they got whooped.
They whooped. Yeah, exactly. So I guess it's a bad example because they lost to a great defense. But yeah, so that's the only reason I say that. And I wouldn't have said that prediction. I thought about it a little bit, but once I saw that they were number 1 passing defense, those DBs got to know something, right?
Yeah, they do. But guess what? When you're, like I mentioned, when you're going up against all those cheetahs that Kansas City has, and when I mean cheetahs, I mean guys that can run 4
One
3
cheetah's going to be stopped on every single play.
And you got 3 other cheetahs out there.
God, it's not like you're blitz. I'm not saying Madden term engage 8 every single play. Right? I'm saying 1 guy, 2 guys, maybe 3 guys on a big important down, right? And then you have Richard Sherman covering the guy and he knocks the ball out of his hand. Right? I can imagine that happening in a couple plays, right? Getting real specific.
That was a nice visual.
Yeah, exactly.
I can see that.
But I just think that if you're looking at it and you see that a team is number 1, there's no way they're going to get torched for 400 yards. I just don't think that's going to happen. Doesn't mean the Chiefs won't win. I just don't think that's going to happen.
You're right. Anything can happen. I have a lot of trust. I have more trust in the Kansas City offense being able to have success than I do the 49ers defense through 4 quarters having success against the Chiefs offense.
Yes.
Right? So there's arguments to be made on both sides, but Patrick Mahomes, a.k.a. the Michael Jordan of today's NFL, on the biggest stage, man, I think he's going to shine, and there's no way you can stop him.
Now, let's talk. I think we'll agree on this one right now. Talk about the Chiefs, number 1 thing to do. I think it's plain and simple. Chiefs defense, number 1 thing to do. Make Garoppolo win the game.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Make Jimmy Garoppolo win the game.
Put 9 dudes in the box. I don't care if they have a 5 receiver set. Put 9 dudes in the box and literally just make them throw. I mean, he threw the ball 8 times, Nick.
Yeah, no,
8
I know.
times in the last game.
If you thought Jimmy Garoppolo was sketchy, which by the way, the entire season, talking to 49ers fans, that's been their biggest thing. They go, our team is great, but I don't know about a quarterback, right? I've heard at least 5-6 people say that quote. 5-6 different people that I've talked to just randomly about 49ers, whether they're playing the Cardinals and you're talking to them, all that stuff. I've heard them say, our team is awesome, our defense is great. We got weapons on offense, but that Jimmy G guy, we don't know about him. And I think the worst thing that could have happened besides winning and getting to the Super Bowl, was Jimmy Garoppolo completing 6 passes in the game before. There is nothing.
The lack of
there is
confidence.
nothing that tells me Jimmy Garoppolo is going to win this game.
See, here's the thing.
Yeah.
If this game becomes a shootout,
It's done.
it's bye.
Over.
Bye.
It's
No
over.
chance. No chance. The 49ers have to run the ball.
Yeah.
They have to run clock. They have to keep the Chiefs offense off the field, because if they don't, if the 49ers are going 3 and out and their defense is having to go back on the field time after time after time, and that Kansas City Chiefs offense get into a rhythm, I mean, we've seen it throughout the playoffs. The Chiefs were down by 24 points to the Tennessee Titans at one point, albeit they were at home, they had the crowd behind them, all that stuff.
Texans.
Or, I'm sorry, against the Texans. I'm sorry about that. They were down by, I believe, double digits to the Titans as well. But the Texans, they were down 24. They were able to come back from that. I mean, this Chiefs team right now, I think they have all the confidence in the world, man. I think the 49ers have to be very careful about how they approach this game, because it's one thing for the Chiefs to get down. They're like, hey, man, we've been here before. We've done this twice in the playoffs already, right? If the 49ers get down, you're like, we got Jimmy G, who only threw 8 passes last game, and now he's going to have to throw 30 in 1.5 to try to beat the Chiefs. That just ain't going to happen right now. So you're right. In all seriousness, the Chiefs are not going to put 9 guys in the box. But I do think that they have to put 6, 7 guys in the box religiously, and as you mentioned, force Jimmy Garoppolo to have to throw the ball, right? Force the 49ers to say, okay, we cannot sit here in a jumbo package with 2 or 3 tight ends and the fullback and just run the ball down our throat. We have to make them spread themselves out and say, hey, let's see who your athletes are, and let's see if your athletes on the outside match up with Kansas City's defenders. So I think that is the key to success for the Chiefs defense.
Yeah, if Jimmy Garoppolo has to win this game, he's not. I just don't. It's not Jimmy G's time. Okay, there's quarterbacks that will do. He will do it later in his career as long as his team.
But Nick, remember, Jimmy G's won 2 Super Bowls.
Okay, I mean, has he won 2 Super Bowls? He won 2 Super Bowls with the Patriots.
Yeah, I believe so. I know he's won 1 for sure.
How many did he get in those games, Jared?
Hey man, he's won 2 Super Bowls, man. He's got the experience. He's been there before.
I don't think reading off a clipboard is enough. No.
That's not the same thing?
No.
Alright, I just, there's some people out there that will say Jimmy G has won, he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback.
And those people are 49ers fans trying to find hope in Jimmy Garoppolo.
Okay, alright.
All jokes aside, if Jimmy G has to win this game for the 49ers, they're in trouble. Because you're going with Patrick Mahomes. You just said the Michael Jordan of football.
Without hesitation.
What the hell is Jimmy G?
I love Stephen A. Smith on ESPN calls Jimmy G porn star Jimmy.
Because he went out with the porn star.
Porn, that's always stuck in my head, and I don't want to say that here on the Cover 2 podcast.
But
I mean,
it's something to think about. That guys that are that attractive with NFL contracts, when you make over $100 million, you go on a date with a porn star that looked like the one that he went out with. Nothing gets her looks. There's just certain features that were a little exaggerated with that girl. So we're going a little off topic here with the podcast.
Actually,
but it's a little. Where's the guy's head at?
Let's get back on topic for a minute, and I'm glad that you brought up his contract, because I wanted to talk about that. So Jimmy Garoppolo, as a starting quarterback when he's actually playing, is 23-5. That's a pretty damn good record, right? Obviously, some of those wins were with the Patriots, the team that drafted him, and the majority of those, the most recent wins, have been with the 49ers. But when he was traded to the 49ers, they then extended him and signed him to a long-term contract. Jimmy G got like $127 million, right?
Yeah.
He had
5 years, 137.
At that point, I believe he had less than 10 starts under his belt.
Strange.
So it's here's the thing.
I honestly think the only starts he had were the 3 games against Patriots before Brissett went in for that.
I believe so. So here's the thing, right? You're the 49ers. You're on a roll, and you're now in the Super Bowl, right? Things are rolling, and you get into this game against Kansas City, and your running game isn't effective, and you have to. And Jimmy G is like, whew. Spotlight's on me now, and I was joking a minute ago. Not that he hasn't, because he is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. But Nick, you're right. He was on the bench holding a clipboard. Yeah. He is now a $100 million quarterback who has less starts in his career than many other quarterbacks that you would think would have a $100 million contract, right? Do you feel that the pressure is on him more so than anyone else in this game? Because if I'm Jimmy G, I think the pressure is all on him.
I don't think there's even I think there's more pressure on Jimmy G than Shanahan for the 49ers. Like, I don't think, there's no, I mean, you talk about the contract, you get paid more than Tom Brady. Like, way more than Tom Brady is. You know, when you look at the contract, essentially it's 4 years, $140 million. I'm bad with math. What, is it 28 a year? Right?
Sounds right, sure.
28
Let's call it 28.
Yeah. So,
we'll
Tom Brady's getting paid 20. Right? It may be one of the reasons Tom Brady, we're going to get to him in a second. But it may be one of the reasons Tom Brady's like, I mean, if Garoppolo's getting 28, give me at least 30. Like, gee, you know. I'll say this.
Tom Brady is also, like, he chose to not take as much money to help the team.
Which is what I think a lot of people should do in the NFL.
Jimmy G said, "Ooh, give me all the money."
Yeah, give me all the money because I don't know how good I am, so let me see how this lasts. And going off the most pressure, I think when you looked last year in the Super Bowl, I think the most pressure was probably on Jared Goff.
No doubt.
And when Jared Goff didn't have a running game, what happened? They scored 3 points. They scored 3 points in that game, right? They scored three. They scored 3 points.
You're right.
Okay, and Jared Goff did not have a good game. And they lost 13-3. It wasn't like they lost 35-3.
Real barn burner.
Yeah, it was a great game if you're a Cardinals fan. You wanted the Rams to lose, but if you look at in the past, you're like, huh, what the hell was that last year? I think this is almost the same thing but worse because I think Jared Goff's a better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo. Okay, when you look at Jared Goff, I wouldn't say he's out there winning games for the Rams. But he definitely is like
he's in the right system for him.
Yeah, exactly. Jimmy Garoppolo.
Jimmy Garoppolo's in the right system for him because he doesn't have to throw the ball.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if Jimmy Garoppolo, like this is his time. If he's gonna win, he's gotta win right now. Because I don't know if he's one of those quarterbacks that will win with an average bad team like a Russell Wilson or like a Tom Brady or someone like that.
Do the 49ers? Now I don't think they do this. I literally just came up in my head right now. It's Super Bowl. The spotlight's on them. I don't know, 500 million people are going to watch this game. Everyone around the world is going to be watching this, right? Do the 49ers say, all right, Jimmy, we got you here. We want to now, put you in the spotlight and have you be our... Do they kind of loosen the reins on Jimmy a little bit and, instead of running the ball 40 times, they only run it 30 and they give Jimmy some extra back? Do you let the quarterback of your franchise kind of take the reins? Or do you stick and rely on the running game? I know what the answer is. I don't know. As a team, I could see a team being like, hey, you know what? We want to elevate our quarterback. Everyone's talking about him and saying he can't win the big game on his own. He can't, he can't do it on his shoulders. Maybe they want to show the world that he can.
Jared, you don't change.
Am I blasphemous right now?
Change your game plan.
All right, I'm just.
You don't do that, man. You don't.
You want to show your quarterback some love. You want to show that he deserves.
Show him some love if they win the Super Bowl next year by going, okay, Jimmy, now you got to prove to us you're legit, and then maybe you don't win the Super Bowl next year. You got to get that Super Bowl.
Okay.
So then you can always say Jimmy Garoppolo was a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Joe Flacco was a Super Bowl winning quarterback, right? Like, it's one of those things where Joe Flacco probably stayed in the NFL a lot longer than he should have because, or at least as a starter, I think he still could work out in the NFL, clearly. But as a starter, I think he stayed way over his stay as a starting franchise quarterback because he won that one Super Bowl in 2012, right? And we saw what happened to the other quarterback, Colin Kaepernick. He didn't win that Super Bowl, and he's out of the league for different reasons, but he was headed to backup status anyways before that. So it was, happens all the time. I can see it happening to Jared Goff too. If the Rams start sucking and he ends up, I know they gave him a big contract too, which was stupid, but it's just.
I love when you just hate on the other teams in the NFC West. It's great, man.
I mean, don't tell me.
No,
you don't do it with the Redskins.
Are you kidding me? Well, every chance I get.
Yeah.
I almost just threw up in my mouth when I had to talk about the Giants and their Super Bowl wins. Are you kidding me? You think I wanted to do that right now? Get out of here.
Okay, so we should, before we give away our predictions for this podcast, I just want to go over the stats really quickly. We don't even have to comment on this at all. I'm just going to give you the stats. I can do with a lot of college football.
What was yours, Nick?
Okay. Points per game. Remember, this is different leagues. You're playing different teams, all that stuff. But here are the stats going into the game. We'll leave this here. Points per game, teams are essentially the same, 29 and 28 per game. Points allowed per game, Chiefs 27, 49ers 15. Huge difference there. Total yards, 395, 391, same thing. Passing yards, 251 for the 49ers, 293 for the Kansas City Chiefs. You wouldn't expect 250.
Yeah, I would have expected over 300, but okay.
Yeah. Rushing yards for the 49ers, 144. Chiefs, 98. So they're not even averaging 100 yards. And I think here's where you see a drastic difference between both teams, is the defense. I remember I already said one was number one and all this stuff. Yards allowed, 49ers, 290 per game. Chiefs, 402. Okay? Passing yards allowed, 249 for the 49ers. That is number one in the NFL. 312 for the Chiefs. 24th, or excuse me, 8th. Not that bad, but still more than the 49ers. Rushing yards, 89 per game for the Kansas City Chiefs. 41 for the San Francisco 49ers. Whew. Okay, so there's your stats right there. We are now going to move on to a more friendly topic, and that is the halftime show.
Hello.
For the Covered Suit podcast.
Can't wait for this.
Super Bowl.
Can't wait for this.
Shakira and Jennifer Lopez.
Yes, please.
Thoughts
yes, please.
on overall them being the halftime show in the city of Miami.
Right.
And is this a better halftime show, at least projected to be, than a lot of the other ones in the past couple years?
Projected to be, yeah. It's in Miami. You need the flair. You've got Shakira and J-Lo. I think they're going to come out and do fantastic. They have. I believe they both have a huge following in Miami, and they're both gorgeous ladies. So who's not going to want to watch them on stage, right? I mean, listen. No offense. In past years, you've had artists like Madonna, the Black Eyed Peas, Usher. I can think of, I believe in 2015 when the Broncos played the Panthers, you had Beyonce. She had a beautiful, great performance. You have Bruno Mars, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Lady Gaga, Coldplay, Katy Perry. I mean, the list goes on, right? Every year, the NFL tries to get the biggest and brightest stars to perform in the halftime show. And I think now these stars are starting to realize that, hey, if we do this is, whether they're making money for it or not, it's a great thing to do for themselves, for their brand, all that stuff. I'm actually going to knock the NFL, which by the way, Nick and I, we can't really stand the NFL. We're talking about the Super Bowl because we love football, but I cannot stand the NFL. And here's one reason why I cannot stand the NFL is because they actually have the audacity to ask these performers to pay them. The NFL to perform at these halftime shows. Yes, I said that correctly. The NFL is asking these performers to pay them, right? Don't you think that it would be the other way around? That the NFL, who's putting on this gigantic event, making billions of dollars on this one Sunday, right? They basically taken over Sundays in the fall.
I mean,
right? And wouldn't you think that the NFL would have to pay these performers? But no. They are now asking performers to pay them.
Did they not pay them?
No, they don't. I don't believe these performers get paid. I believe now, and we're going to have to check this, but I believe that these performers...
I'm reading this too at the same time.
I believe that they do it just, because they enjoy the game or for whatever reasons, marketing, all that stuff. So I think that's very curious and, just one of the many random acts that the NFL puts on that many people don't know about.
I remember a time, this has nothing to do with the Super Bowl halftime show, there was a time where there was some 49ers celebration and Joe Montana did not do the celebration because he wanted to get paid for it and they wouldn't pay him. And Joe Montana what? You know what I'm saying? And I was mad at Joe Montana for that. I'm like, come on. But now realizing that there's probably none of these guys ever get paid for any of this stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Why would you do it?
A $1 billion business, a non-profit organization, by the way.
Come on, man. There's no way that's done.
Look it up. Non-profit organization making billions of dollars, and somehow, whether they want to say they can't afford to or it's not in it, they do not pay their performers. So, I cannot wait. I will be glued to the TV with my beer in hand, chips in hand, and I'm not as excited as this halftime performance as the game, but pretty close. It's these halftime performances. Let's just get into how about the commercials, right? Everyone sits, usually, who watches commercials anymore? But for the Super Bowl, it's kind of all about the commercials, right? Whether it's a 15-second slot or a 30-second slot, businesses are paying millions of dollars to get these 15 seconds for Super Bowl Sunday because they understand the amount of viewers that are watching these games. So I'll be watching all the commercials. That is the one and only time out of the year that you can say that for me. I'll be watching the halftime show. I'm pumped, man. I can't wait.
I always have the problem, and here's my thing, is so obviously I've become way more of a football fan, I'd say the last 5 years than I ever was.
Okay.
The last couple of years, I forgot about the commercials. But I'm so excited about the game.
My favorite ones are the Bud Light commercials.
Yeah.
You know?
But so like at 1 o'clock, the games usually start like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. At 1 o'clock I start drinking. And then by the time the commercials are on, I'm like, oh, I need to actually see these commercials.
Young buck, you gotta pace yourself.
You gotta pace yourself.
Yeah,
but I'm so excited about the games. I can watch football games while drinking. I have no problem with that. I can tell you about, you see me, I come on this podcast a lot of times during the Sundays I've been drinking, and a lot of times during these playoffs. Not that I'm not saying I have a problem or anything.
I was gonna say, Nick, do we need to have a conversation?
Just stop talking about this.
Okay, alright.
No, but so it's but it's kind of funny. I've had that problem the last couple of years where number one, you kind of forget, or maybe you'll take a piss after and you're like, oh wait a minute, this is the commercials. I can't take it.
You can't break the seal, man. You gotta hold it in.
Yeah, I gotta hold it in.
Yeah. By the way, on our next podcast, which will be next week after the Super Bowl, not only are we going to break down the winner, get into all the X's and O's of who won and why, we are going to have our favorite commercials.
Sure.
We're going to talk about the halftime performance and what we thought about that. So for all of you who are interested in our opinions of that, which I know you are, you will get to hear those next week. Just a little heads up.
Just to get my take on the halftime show really quickly before we get into more NFL news, which we have to get through pretty quickly because we're running low on time.
can do that.
But I do like that they kind of put a Miami vibe to the Super Bowl, because I think the last couple of years they really haven't. It's been these weird combinations. I mean, you had Coldplay, Beyonce, Bruno Mars the one year. You had Lady Gaga in Arizona.
Well, last year was one of the weirdest combinations I've ever seen. Maroon 5, okay, Travis Scott and Big Boy. Now, I don't know if they've collaborated before on a song or an album or something like that, but that was an interesting.
I mean, you had the thing with Travis Scott. You had the SpongeBob stuff,
right?
Which was interesting, but there's only a certain age group that would even understood what was going on there. And then the year before, you had Justin Timberlake, the Tennessee Kids, whoever the hell that is, and the University of Minnesota marching band. So it's like this year, Jennifer Lopez and Shakira. You think of Miami? The only person they could have added to this was Pitbull, which I think would have been something
and a lot of times as well, there's like a special, hidden performer that comes out at some point. So I wouldn't be surprised if
Pitbull, a Flo Rida, someone like that
comes out.
That would come out to all that stuff. Maybe A-Rod, right? Maybe we'll show up in support of his.
What's he gonna do?
Is he married to Jennifer Lopez?
He is. I don't know. They're together.
Well, A-Rod will be. Somehow he's gonna get there again.
He'll be there. But I'm talking about he's not gonna be performing. You want to say A-Rod?
Have you ever seen a convicted cheater ever stay this popular? It's amazing. A-Rod cheated twice. Cheated in the non-steroid era. It is on everything. He's on everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's redeemed himself.
You gotta love Fox, right? You gotta love Fox, because Fox with the baseball coverage has Pete Rose and A-Rod on it. I mean, come on. You gotta love that, right?
As always, Nick's gotta get that baseball punch in there for a minute.
Is on the show too. He tweeted too.
Let's jump to some elderly.
Real quick, we got about 10 minutes.
Some veteran.
By the way, the reason I keep drinking this is because I'm a little under the weather. I had some Chinese food last night.
He's gutting it out because it's the Super Bowl. If this was week 5 of the regular season, Nick would not be here right now, and I would be doing a solo act.
Yeah.
So thank you, Nick, for showing up so I did not have to talk the entire time.
We had to cancel yesterday, but then it was...
It's okay. We can make it up. Let's get into Phillip Rivers, right? Phillip Rivers, drafted by the Chargers, played his entire career with the Chargers and has never won a Super Bowl. Has been to the playoffs a few times, but has underachieved as a team throughout his entire career. One of the biggest trash-talking quarterbacks I can remember, and that is why I cannot stand Phillip Rivers, because when you trash talk as much as this guy does, and yet you do not win, you do not cuss. You do not have the right to trash talk anymore, and yet he still does. I remember there was a clip on Twitter. The Chargers were playing in Jacksonville. This was like week 13 or 14. The Chargers were already out of the playoffs, weren't really playing for anything. They had maybe 3 or 4 wins on the season. Phillip Rivers threw like a 70-yard touchdown pass. Good for him. He got up and stood over the defender and literally mocked him for a minute. And you're like, dude, you may be winning this game right now, but you want to look at your record? Y'all are out of the playoffs. You haven't been to the playoffs in a couple years, and you never won a Super Bowl. So his cockiness to me is a little much, and I know I was going on a little bit of a rant right there. I didn't mean to do that. The reason why we're talking about Phillip Rivers is because he has uprooted his family from Southern California back to Florida? Is that where he lives? Florida, yes.
Right.
So he has moved his family back
That was
home.
the only way he was going to get the Super Bowl this year, too.
Oh, nice. I like it. I like it. So yes, Philip Rivers, in all cases, is more than likely done playing quarterback for the Chargers. He has not come out and said that he's retired. We are not sure if he is still looking to play, but all signs are pointing to him not being in a Chargers uniform next year. Your thoughts?
It should happen if you're the Chargers. Philip Rivers clearly isn't the quarterback you should be playing.
Is he a starting quarterback in the NFL?
Yeah, I think he still
is. Okay. Because I think that's a question.
He's better than a lot of guys, and even like when you look at like a guy like Eli Manning retired, it wasn't Eli Manning's time anymore. I still think Philip Rivers could be a starting quarterback in this game. I think with the Chargers last year, a lot of wide receivers hurt. He did try to do too much for them, and with like Melvin Gordon not being ready to start the season, like they didn't have their full complement of weapons. I think if Philip Rivers joins a team with some weapons, I don't know who that would be. He still could lead a team to the playoffs. I would never say that he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback because he just hadn't done it in 20 years. Maybe unless he joined the Chiefs, it'd be the only team that like maybe he would be able to succeed with. But I still think he's a starting quarterback. I think there's a lot of. You look at the Chicago Bears. I think he's better than Mr. Trubisky. Right.
Well, so
I think he's better than Jimmy Garoppolo.
A friend of the show, Alex Silva, who's been on the show before, on Twitter, actually brought up a great question, and I think it's a legitimate debate. Philip Rivers, as we mentioned, took his family back home to Miami, where he seems to reside at this point. Do you think that the Miami Dolphins signed Philip Rivers, even though a lot of projections have the Dolphins taking Tua Tagovailoa out of Alabama, right? And they need a young quarterback for the future. But do you see Miami as a team that could bring on Philip Rivers as a potential veteran? You know, someone that if Tua's not ready, Philip Rivers can step in. Because I thought that was an interesting point.
Here's the thing about Miami. They already got a veteran quarterback in Ryan Fitzpatrick. I don't know if they haven't signed, but might as well sign a guy back that already knows your offense and did win you games this season. I think he won all 5 games this season for them. He was the starting quarterback, right? I don't remember exactly.
I don't know about that.
I mean, with that roster, the fact that Ryan Fitzpatrick won 5 games for the Dolphins, if he in fact did, like that's pretty impressive, right? And we know Ryan Fitzpatrick is a kind of career backup, starter, fill-in guy. I would rather, but like you're right. If they don't want to sign him back, then you go with a guy like Phil Rivers. I think they can work out, but I think Ryan Fitzpatrick comes a lot cheaper.
Okay.
I think Phil Rivers could end up in Carolina. In the same kind of facet where Carolina could trade up for a quarterback, maybe go to Cincinnati, be the backup there, right? I don't know. It's just, I think Phil Rivers realistically should retire. I don't think he should play anymore.
Please retire.
That's the biggest. I think we're saying this, and
I don't see his big mouth being a backup holding a clipboard. I don't see it happening.
No, and that's why I'm saying if he doesn't have a starting job, why the hell do you want to sit behind somebody unless you're sitting behind like Tom Brady or someone like that? Like I don't like where like at least you're like oh, I get to be on a team with him, saying like something weird like that. But yeah, I don't know. I think Tom Brady, Phil Rivers, is just one of those quarterbacks that's not going to win a championship. I mean, you see that in all sports. There's guys that don't end up winning a championship. Clayton Kershaw hasn't in his career with the Dodgers, even though he's one of the best. I don't know why you had to do that. It's so unnecessary.
I'm sorry. I really don't like Philip Rivers, dude.
Sorry.
I really don't.
No. Well, I'm saying there's a guy like Charles Barkley.
That was aimed towards Philip Rivers, not you.
Sorry. Okay, I thought you were talking about Clayton Kershaw.
No. That wasn't aimed towards.
No. We're absolutely fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, my bad. We're good, man. We're solid.
We're solid. I thought all that.
No, that was aimed at Philip Rivers.
I was about to say something about the Cowboys.
No.
No, I'm just kidding.
About to have a fight here on the Go-To podcast.
Exactly. But,
UFC.
No, Philip Rivers, he needs to retire, man. It's just, your career is actually great. He'll probably be in the Hall of Fame, to be honest. When you see some of the other players in the Hall of Fame, I think Philip Rivers has done enough. He's led the league in passing a bunch of years. He's been a very, very good quarterback, and they just, Chargers over the years didn't stack their team with enough talent. I think when he had great talent, they had good teams. And Philip Rivers was one of those quarterbacks that needed help, and there was, especially like last season when they went 13-3, they came up against the Patriots team and ended up winning the Super Bowl. My thing is, if you end up losing to the team that wins the Super Bowl, you really can't complain about that season because you lost to the best team in the NFL, right? Or got killed in that game, but any quarterback that goes 13-3, 12-4 on a season, that's pretty damn good. So
let's move on to Tom Brady. I think we're done talking about Philip.
We got to do real quick on Tom Brady because we do need to make our predictions for the Super Bowl.
Real quick.
But Tom Brady posted a picture of him walking through the tunnel. It sure looks like he's walking out onto
It's real dark, man. You can't see.
It's real dark. He made it sketchy. Real quick, does this mean he's retiring? Does this mean he's leaving the Patriots? Or does this mean he's coming back to the Patriots? Just answer one. What do you think it means?
He's playing next year, not for the Patriots.
You're so behind that take.
All day.
I know.
I will take that to the grave until he comes out and says he's not. Listen, the dude is from California, right? The Chargers, who are losing Phillip Rivers, need a quarterback. Northern California, but still California, right? His wife Giselle, I think, is tired of being in Boston in winter weather, right? Storms and rain and snow and all that for 7 months out of the year. I think she would like to be in sunny Southern California, at least for the foreseeable future. Here's the thing, and I mentioned this, and I think this is, on an all seriousness note, this is the first time in Tom Brady's 20-year career that he will actually have control of his destiny. Yeah. The Patriots, for all of Tom Brady's career, has controlled his rights in a sense, right? When they've extended his contract, it's because he's been a restricted free agent. Tom Brady is an unrestricted free agent, which means the Patriots can throw $300 million at him, and Tom Brady doesn't have to accept it, right? That's not going to happen, but I think you guys know what I mean. Tom Brady can go out and check the market, test the market, see if another team is willing to offer what he wants. And if the Chargers or another team, kind of gets at or near his money mark, I'm telling you right now, I think Tom Brady's relationship with Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft is not what it used to be. He's won 6 Super Bowls with him. He has absolutely nothing to prove with the New England Patriots, really, in his career. But I think he still wants to play. So the fact that he's from California, his wife, I'm sure, would like to be, on the West Coast in a warm weather state, and I guarantee you his family will be a big part of this decision. I can see Tom Brady coming and playing in the new stadium here in LA.
I think if there's one team that he does switch to, it's the Chargers. I'll say that.
Okay.
I don't think it happened. I think it sure looked like that was Gillette Stadium in the background, that little cryptic photo. Okay? I think he's messing with everybody. I just think this means he's coming back to the Patriots. He wants to cause a stir. He's done this in the past, too. He said this weird stuff on Twitter, and then all of a sudden he's back.
He also said that he's not taking a hometown discount, so the Patriots are going to have to ante up.
Then they should. I don't think they should get $40 million.
The Patriots, religiously in their history, they do not pay people.
But it's different with Tom Brady, though. Tom Brady is the best quarterback of all time. You're paying LeBron James here.
They've gotten Tom Brady to take pay cuts. They don't pay anyone.
But I think Tom Brady taking pay cuts was the reason they could do all the stuff they did.
It was.
Yeah. But so I think now they might go, you know what? For Tom, it's a little bit like Dwayne Wade. Right? Dwayne Wade finally got a non-hometown discount when he wasn't the best player. The Heat weren't that good. Right? And maybe the Patriots go, let's just try it for 1-2 more years. Maybe just 1 more year, right? And then they just kind of hope he retires because they're so bad. But I don't know. I just think he goes after the Patriots. I know they moved and all that stuff, but they're rich. They got private jets. They can fly up. You know what I'm saying? Like, the kids can live in New York and they can come up for the games if they wanted. They probably don't care about this game.
Quote of the night.
Yeah.
They're rich.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, right. They're rich. It's not because of Tom. Well, it is because of Tom, but you get what I'm saying.
Giselle.
Okay, Giselle makes a crap ton of money.
A little bit. I think
okay,
$400 million.
About 5 minutes left in the podcast. We need to switch topics. We need to finally give our predictions for the Super Bowl. I'll give mine first.
Drum roll, please.
Chiefs, all the way. I think the Chiefs win by double digits.
Really?
I think they are able to not allow the 49ers to run. I think Jimmy Garoppolo does have to try to win this game. I think Jimmy Garoppolo makes at least 2 turnovers in this game via fumble or interception. And I think those are going to be the keys. And I'm going to go 31-17 in favor of the Chiefs in this game. 2 touchdown win, maybe even more.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm also going with the Chiefs as well. But I think the score will be a little closer. I'm going 27-20.
Okay.
And I think... here's the thing. It's the Super Bowl. It is the first time for many of these players on both teams Richard Sherman is one of the few players. I know that Andy Reid has also been in the Super Bowl when he was the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, but Richard Sherman is one of the few players that, just off the top of my head, I can think of that has played, and Emmanuel Sanders as well. Patrick Mahomes, Jimmy Garoppolo has obviously been there, but has not played. A lot of these guys, it's the first time for them. Big lights, bright stage. I think the first 5-10 minutes of the game, maybe even the first quarter, there's going to be a lot of nerves, a lot of jitters. I think it's going to take a minute for these teams to settle in and actually start playing real football, just because the lights are going to be so bright. So I think we might see somewhat of a slow start, and then the second quarter, the second half, you see things ramp up a little bit. But in the end, I think the Kansas City Chiefs offense is just too much. They are a juggernaut when they are completely healthy. As long as they stay healthy and they do not sustain any injuries in this game, I cannot see the Chiefs losing 27-20. Kansas City Chiefs are your 2019 Super Bowl.
Yeah, by no chance the Chiefs are they're winning this game. Okay, I don't know. It might be close, but I'll go with 50-50 on this one. At least I'll get the Chiefs winning right on this one. Maybe they don't win by 14 or whatever I'm saying, but I think they're winning for sure. Okay, real quick. 2 quick questions. I just want you to answer them super quick. Would you pay the $4,000 that a Super Bowl ticket is costing at its cheapest right now?
If the Cowboys were in
it,
yes.
You would pay $4,000.
Yeah.
It would be tough for me. I would, but I mean, they need to figure something out. It is one game, guys. Let's calm it down.
Yeah, but here's the thing: when people were paying that price,
Imagine last year.
Imagine
last year.
People pay. I feel like half of the fans.
How about the year when the Broncos got murdered in that game? That just sucked.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you wouldn't have expected that, right?
Well, no, but it's what I'm saying. I don't think I would ever pay.
A lot of people that go to the Super Bowl buy tickets like way ahead of time, and they may not even be like actual fans. It's just because it's a Super Bowl and they say that they've gone, right? So I don't know. I mean, if the Cowboys were in it because I'm a fan,
I mean, I'll say this: if the Cardinals, for some reason in my lifetime, are not in the Super Bowl,
or it would have to be a game where you're like almost guaranteed it's going to be a shootout. Like if the Chiefs were playing the Saints and you have like 2 juggernaut offenses, like you knew there was going to be points.
Exactly.
Then if I had that type of money, yeah, sure, why not? Because you know it's going to be exciting. But let's, for instance, if the Tennessee Titans and the 49ers made it to the Super Bowl. Hell no, I paid no $4,000.
Okay, so the quality of the game means more to you than the actual teams besides the Cowboys.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then another question for you: any mention of Colin Kaepernick on this Super Bowl broadcast at all?
Oh,
it is Fox. They tend to go a little off the grid a little bit with some stuff.
Yeah, I do. And we actually had a conversation about this off air. We don't have time to talk about it now. But with the 49ers being in the Super Bowl, the last time they were in the Super Bowl,
who was the QB?
Kyle, that would be Colin Kaepernick, right? They did lose. They lost to the Baltimore Ravens, and obviously that was there was a huge issue with that in the third quarter. The lights went out. The game was postponed for like 20-30 minutes, and the 49ers were leading in that game, and then they ended up losing. So, there's a lot of things that happened in that game. But the one thing you can't argue is the last time they were in the Super Bowl, Colin Kaepernick was the starting quarterback. I do believe that there will be some type of mention. There'll be one. That's all you need is one.
It's going to be Joe Buck in that sarcastic voice is going to say it. Fox is obviously.
And I think it will be in the beginning. They're going to say, and the last time the 49ers were in the Super Bowl,
that's the last time we're mentioning Colin Kaepernick ever in the NFL.
And then the producer is going to be screaming in their ear to shut up and talk about the game.
Talk about Vince McMahon instead.
Anything, yes. But no, I do feel that there is one.
There will be more XFL mentioned than Colin Kaepernick on this broadcast, because Fox is broadcasting XFL. All right, Jared, we thought this podcast would last like 40 minutes. It's lasted, I believe, a little bit over an hour. So,
that's what happens when we're having a good time.
This is our favorite sport, and it's the biggest game, and it's going to be a good game. We cannot wait.
That's right.
Just real quick, I got Chiefs by double digits. Jared's got Chiefs by 7. This has been the Cover 2 Podcast, everybody. We can't wait for the Super Bowl. For Nick Nenad,
I'm Jared Smith.
We will see you next week with a Super Bowl recap. See you guys.